Okay, let's get started with this top section, which is going to be this logo and this menu. So the first thing that I'm looking at here is we're going to have to create like two separate sections in here. So we're going to have this element here, and this is going to be the logo. And then there's going to be another element section to this, which is just going to be like the menu area. So let's go ahead and let's create that. So we're in the top section, and I'm just going to add two divs. And one will be the logo. And the other side will be the menu. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my section 1 here, and inside the top, I'm just going to add two classes called logo. And you notice how we're just like, this is the great thing about a SaaS is we can just like put things inside of things. So you can think of these are like objects, and so I can have like sub objects inside of them that allow us to write CSS more effectively. Otherwise, for example, let's say I wanted to write just vanilla CSS and I want to target this logo thing. I would have to write something that looks like this: section1.top.logo. And this is just so much more verbose than what this is. This means, actually it would look something like this instead, but this is essentially what this means, the way that we write this. It's section 1, top, logo, right? So when SAS compiles this for us, this is just like 1,000 times easier. Plus, I mean, SAS, you can write your own custom variables and everything in here. So it has just a lot of advantages over writing normal CSS. But anyways, I digress. We have a logo section and we have a menu section, okay? Now, since I've actually already recorded this entire tutorial once, I already have all the images already created, but I'm going to show you how to create the images, but I won't be probably going through how to create all the images. I'm going to give a few demos, and then it's going to be up to you if you want to do all the work to export the images, or just use the ones that I provide. The final project will come with all the images. This is really more just busy work, and it's going to really depend on the particular job. Some designers I've worked with are really good, and you can just ask them for the images and they'll export everything for you. And then occasionally you have to do all the work yourself. It is good to know how to do it yourself, though, in case you ever have to do it. So this first one that we're going to do is super duper easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock section 1, and then I'm going to press Control, and then I'm going to click on one of the letters here. And this is a completely vector logo. And it's saved inside of its own group. So I can click on the group here, and you can see that I have it selected. And then I can press Control-C to copy it. And then go to File, New from Clipboard. And here I go. I have the logo. And from here I can go File, Export. And this is a vector logo, so I want to export it as an SVG. And then I'm just going to export it. And here are all my assets already that I created when I originally recorded this. And so I'm just going to go logo, and then I'm just going to save over that. And you might be asking, why am I recording this again? The quality the first time that I did it was just not very good. The audio got all garbled, and you know, I made some mistakes. So hopefully this version is much better than the last version. We should be moving a lot quicker in this version because I already have everything already figured out, and so that will be good. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my front end, and I'm going to go to my assets, and I'm just going to copy all these assets actually into my project right now. I'm going to create a new directory called images. And I'm just going to paste them in here. Okay. And again, I mean, you could just clone this Jabber tutorial repo and then just use all the images out of it if you wanted to, if you were following along. And okay, so inside, there's one thing that we have to talk about here. So I've included this package called Lazy Sizes. And if you go to the README and click on it, it'll take you right to the NPM page. And what Lazy Sizes is an easy way to load images very effectively. Essentially, when an image is not on the screen, it does not load the image. Once you scroll the image into view, then it will load the image for you. And the advantages of using something like lazy images is it allows your page to load much faster. This is important in actual production work. You want your pages to load as fast as you can make them load. Because it's just a better experience for the end user and they're more likely to stick around and use your website and whatever. So it would be good for you to read through this. I'm going to show you how to use it. It's pretty simple for the most part. Basically, what you do is you create an image with an image tag, and then there's two different ways. We're going to use both these ways, right? So you can set the data source attribute to the name of the image, and then the important part is that it has the class lazy load, and that just means it'll lazily load the image. And then there's a okay, so we use this version for vector assets, like the logo we just created. And for non-vector assets, pixel images, we're going to use the second way to do it. And with the second way you do it, you have a data source set attribute. And then you can set a 1x image, which is your 1080p image. And then we can have a higher resolution image, like a 2x density image for 4K resolution monitors. And that'll be this image here. And this pretty much covers all our bases for the size of images we actually need. And we get the dynamic loading that we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this text right here. And I'm going to go to logo and I'm going to paste it in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put backslash or / images and logo.svg. And I'm going to save this. And we're going to see if this actually worked. So I'm going to open up my window here, and there's our image. And look at it's absolutely ginormous. I am going to switch my dock back to the right here. And so obviously this is not what we're looking for. So let's come into here, and I want to see how big our image should be. So I have our group selected, and the width should be 214 pixels. And so I'm just going to use the width here, 214. And I'm going to go to our rem converter, and I'm going to type this in, and it should be 6.688 rems. So let's go to section 1. We have our logo class, which references this div right here with the class logo. And we have an image tag inside of it that we want to target. And we want to set the width to 6.88 rems. Now, I also want to set this height to be auto. And what this means is keep the aspect ratio of the image. We want it where it's telling it to be X amount of wide, and we just want it to automatically take care of its own height, okay? And then we can save that, and we can go back and look at it, and there we go. That's looking pretty good. So you might be wondering like why it's all the way on the left-hand side, and it's just because I have this window open and I'm like resizing the window, right? So if I didn't have this here, it'd be more where we would expect to see it, right? So don't worry about it. This is how you're going to see it most of the time while we have this window open, and that's perfectly a-okay. All right. So what's next here is I can see that there should be some padding between the top and the top of the logo here. So what I want to do is I actually kind of want to figure this out, and this is a little more tricky because I want to make sure, I'm just going to take some of these boxes out of here because they're not helping us. I want to make sure that this line goes to the top of like this box or to the top of the logo. And this can be a little finicky sometimes. What we could do is we could drag from the ruler up here. If you don't have the ruler, you can press Control R to show the ruler. And I'm just going to drag it to the top of the text. That usually works better as a snap point. And then I can just drag this line down onto that snap point. But what we're seeing here is some of this box here is not in there. So I'm just going to manually get in here and just like try to set this. Yeah, the reason why is because there's an outline. This element is essentially an outline, and so it runs into the center. So we're gonna have to manually set it. I can press Alt, and then I can manually set this line really nice. And then I'm just gonna come here and pull this down. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing here, and then I'm just gonna hold Alt and line it up with the bottom here. And then I'm gonna reposition this here. Okay, we're looking pretty good. And then I'm just gonna grab this and I'm gonna pull it down. Okay, so the height here should be about 44 pixels. What you're gonna see in a lot of these designs is you're gonna have like fractional pixels. Well, fractional pixels don't exist, only, full pixels exist. So what we're just gonna do is whenever we see a fractional pixel like this, we're just gonna round to the nearest pixel. So I'm just gonna go to 44 here. I mean, you're never ever going to be able to get a design like 100% pixel perfect, but if you're within like, a couple of pixels, no one will ever be able to tell. So I would say don't worry about it. And so we want to offset this top element. And so what we want to do is add a margin top, like so. And then when we go look at it, we see that we have a little margin off the top here. So if I hover over this top div, we see that there's a yellow area over the top. And the yellow area is the margin that we just set. So if I click on this, and we can see we have a margin top. And if I click the checkbox, I can take that away. And so there's the extra height that we added. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and let's start working on this menu area real quick. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to use bootstrap buttons. I love using bootstrap buttons. So if we scroll down and we can go to the button section. And so bootstrap already comes with a bunch of button styles, and it would be in your advantage to like learn what they're called. And it's pretty simple. You usually have a primary color, you have a secondary color, and by default they're like blue and gray, but I'm going to show you later, we can change these colors. And then you have success, which is a green, a danger, which is a red, warning, which is yellow, info, which is a blue, light, which is like white, and then dark, which is a dark color. And then you have a special one, which is a link. Essentially, it doesn't have like any outer style to it. It looks like just like an HTML link. This can be super handy when you want to write a button that kind of fits in with everything, but looks like a link. And we're going to actually use this right now. Okay, so down here we have the actual classes. What you need to know is a bootstrap button is set with the BTN class, and then its variant, right? So BTN-primary would be this one, and secondary, and success, and danger, and so on and so forth. So what we're most important looking at here, they have it defined with a button tag, and you don't have to use a button tag. We can use a link tag or an A tag. And so an A tag looks like this. It looks like a link, right? Or if I like hover over one of these things here, this is kind of like an A tag. It's a hyperlink, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this here. And I'm going to go to the menu and I'm just going to paste this in. I'm going to change this from button to A. I'm going to remove this part. And then an A element always has this attribute called href, which is the destination where the link should go. Now, since this is just a random design and the site doesn't actually exist, we don't have any place for it to actually go. Now, if you just want to use an A element and you don't have a place for it to go, you fill it with a hashtag or I forget what the actual character is called. Little brain fart here. But a hashtag or a pound sign. So we can go to our design here and we can see that we have explore. So I'm just going to control and double click on this. And I'm just going to copy this in here. So we have explore. We have one that says English and has an icon, and we'll get to that later. We have become a seller. We have sign in. And I'm just going to duplicate this line, and then we have join. Now we can see that this join link or button looks different than the rest of them. And so what I'm trying to do is select the box here. Okay. And it has like this white outline to it. Now, Bootstrap actually already has us covered there, so we can just keep scrolling down. And here we go. We have outline buttons that we can use. So this is very cool. Now, the button looks just like one of these light ones. So let's go ahead and let's steal the classes on this. And let's slam it on there. Okay. And I'm just going to click save here. And then we're going to go look at it. And this is obviously like wrong in so many ways, right? We need all these elements to be out here on the right-hand side, and we need to restyle them. Okay, so let's get to moving them first. So this is where our buddy Flexbox is going to come into play. So we're going to go back into section 1, and we're going to go into this top area, and we're going to set display flex. This will activate Flexbox. Flex direction should be row. Okay, and the way you determine that is, right, so this is our parent element that we have display flex set on. And then we have two elements. We have the logo and we have the menu element. And we want them to be stacked next to each other, right, as a row. Now, we want this menu to be aligned on the right side, okay? So how we could do this is with align self, and we could say flex end. But there is a problem here. So if we hover over this element, we can see the blue area. This is the amount of area that the div takes up, okay? So what we need is for this element to stretch across the remaining space that's available, okay? So we need to add width 100%. And we see that it stretches all the way there. Now this align self might not be correct way to do it. Okay. So something is wrong with this, and I'm just going to troubleshoot until I figure out exactly what's wrong with it. Uh, okay. So this is an acceptable solution here, and actually probably the best solution. We could just use text align right, which takes all the text and, well, it aligns it to the right side. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Let's just copy this here, and we can put this inside of this menu tag. Now there is one other special property that we want to set here, and it is the flex property. Okay, so I'm just going to pull up flex inside of here. Now, this flex property can be defined in a number of different ways, but how we'll oftentimes use it in this tutorial is this version right here. Essentially, it allows us to set these three properties. We can set the flex grow property, the flex shrink property, and the flex basis property. Now, you're going to probably want to read more about the flex grow and flex shrink and the flex basis, but basically, flex basis allows you to set something to be like a percentage of a width of the available space. So for example, 10% here. And then flex grow will typically just be 1, which means we just want it to grow out to the full width that it can. And flex shrink basically specifies whether or not something can be shrunken by flex. It's not going to make probably a ton of sense right now. You're going to have to read a little bit more about it, but basically we want to make sure that this image can't be resized based on flexbox. So we want to specify flex 1 for grow, which means I want it to keep its size. And then we have 0 for the shrink, and that means I do not want this to shrink ever. And then auto just means take up the space that you want to take up. Is how I think about it, at least. And this is looking pretty okay so far. And I think that's where we're going to stop this video, and I'm going to pick it up in the next one.